So the first thing that we want to do is talk about ERAS, and really in order to really kind of grasp that whole thing, we need to take a look at the overview of the entire process of going through entering your information all the way up until the match to really kind of get a good appreciation for it. Here's a little diagram that I made up to kind of help simplify some of the basic things about how this whole system works, because there's multiple pieces to the puzzle. So you need to think about ERAS as being like the hub. Like this is, your entire application all in one spot on one website. And so you as a candidate are going to have all this information, all the stuff that you've ever did, and you're going to then put it into ERAS. It's not like a file that you upload. You have to individually type each and everything. So this is going to take you a while. And ERAS opens on June 6th. So on June 6th, if June is coming up for you third-year medical students, you have to start thinking about this now, all the things that are going to go into ERAS that we're going to cover in a little bit. So ERAS opens on June 6th, and then September 6th, you can start selecting programs that you want to send your information to. Once you've selected those programs, on September 15th, programs can start to look at it. They can decide whether or not they want to offer you an interview, and then they can send you an interview request back, usually by email or through an online interview scheduling system. When all is said and done, both you and the programs now have a good sense of who each other are. They've seen your application, you've gone and visited, you've had your interview, and now you have to start ranking them in the order in which you want them and they want you. And so how that works is, after all is said and done, again, the programs now have all the information that they need. They've made up their lists. And so they can start to put that information into the NRMP Match, which is a completely separate website from ERAS. So ERAS, you're putting in all of your stuff for the application that then goes to the programs. Then when all is said and done, you go back into the NRMP Match website and you start ranking the programs and making your list. The Match then does its magic. There's some crazy algorithm that's like won Nobel Peace Prizes or something. I mean, it's amazing. This thing then takes and kind of cross-references all of these lists, and it looks at, if we put people here, who's going to be the most satisfied. And on March 15th is when you finally find out, in a very stressful and very stereotypically medical school type of way to do things. Now the next piece of the puzzle is breaking down each individual section. Okay guys, here we go. So when you open ERAS on June 6th or whenever it is that you decide to get started, these are the 9 things that you have to have ready to go so that you can start entering it in and get out, in front of the game a little bit here. So number 1 is your educational pedigree. Straight up, where did you go to school, undergrad, grad, and your medical school. Number 2 is licensure. Now, if you weren't a physician licensed in a different country, this is not really going to apply to you. However, medical students, you do have to put in ACLS, your BLS, and your PALS. Number 3 is medical school honors and awards, and I think you can get creative in this section. I did, and I didn't have a problem. So let me tell you what I mean. If you were asked to be a anatomy TA or a tutor because you were in the top whatever % of your class, I think that is an honorable thing. I included that under my medical school honors and awards, and it counted. Any other awards that have actual names, obviously put those in there, and that will go a long way. Number 4, membership in honorary and professional societies, and I think this is really underrated. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know what professional society I want to join because I don't know what specialty I want to go into. And to that I'll say, choose a professional society that's ambiguous. AMSA is ambiguous. Your state physician association, ambiguous. You can use that for any specialty. And so I would definitely recommend joining a professional society. It shows that you're committed. It shows that you want to do some things outside of medical school, and that can go a long way. Number 5 is experience, and that's work, volunteer, or research. And if you're looking at this right here and you're going, volunteer, I did stuff in high school, I don't know if that's going to count anymore. You should have a volunteer experience in medical school. And if you don't have one, that's okay. It's not June yet. Get out there, do something and volunteer so that you have something to talk about on interview day. And then I want to point this out here. Look at this, research and publications. Everybody looks at this and they're confused by it. What does it mean? What's an experience versus the publication? I thought that my research experiences were going to end up as publications. So this is the way I did it, and it worked out really well for me. A publication is anything that has appeared in a peer-reviewed journal or the literature. And you have to have a citation for it because that's what they're going to ask you for. If you don't already have a citation or it hasn't been accepted for publication, it then goes into research experience. In the experience section, they give you a little paragraph where you can talk about what you did. You worked in a lab, whatever it is that you did. So that's the distinguishing factor here. This one has already been accepted for publication. These are things that you've worked on or you are currently working on. Number 7 is languages. And straight up, they're going to ask you what language do you speak and your fluency. Do not say that you are proficient or you are completely fluent or you are native in a language if you are not, because they will call you out on it. I've heard stories of interviewers saying to the interviewees and start talking to them in a foreign language because they listed that they were proficient or that they were fluent in it and they didn't know what to do. Don't you be that person that gets caught with your pants down. Do not lie. Just be honest. It's okay if you don't speak 7 languages. Not everybody on the interview trail will. Number 8, hobbies and interests. They just want to know, what do you like to do? They want to know that they're hiring a person, not a robot. And they will talk to you about these things. So be sure to include some interesting ones. For example, I talked about mindfulness meditation and starting that practice in mine, and that was very well received. They liked that. Number 9, other awards and accomplishments is anything that doesn't fall under category 3 that you felt was an award or an accomplishment. So you can go back to high school, and you can go back to college, or just things that you've done in your community that you were awarded or that you feel is an accomplishment. So the other question is, what if you're applying to multiple programs? Easy. Just search for 2 different programs, select each one that you want to do. If you want to search for internal medicine and surgery, that's totally fine. The only caveat that I'll say about that, and really, I mean, you could apply theoretically to every single program out there. It would just cost you a ton of money. Every program that you select, you pay for. So you have to weigh out how much do you really want to match versus how much do you want to spend versus what can you really, kind of risk to get it done. But the one caveat that I'll say to that is that some of the other information, like your professional associations, you can't enter 2 sets of information for that. So if you put down that you were a member of an internal medicine society and not a surgical society, the surgery programs that you apply to will see that. So you just have to kind of keep that in mind. There's certain information that's specific, and then there's certain that you can assign specific things for. 2 of the things that you can apply specifically are your letters of recommendation and your personal statement. And this goes without saying, start working on your personal statement as early as possible. I'm telling you, you will revise it up until the point that you submit it. I was working on mine for at least 6 to 7 months. I had 4 different drafts. I changed it a bunch of times, and I was only applying to one specialty. So really put some time and some thought into it. And then also, like we talked about last time, get those clinical rotations and get really good letters of recommendation. Which brings me to a really quick thing. I just wanted to address a question that I had from one of my followers on Twitter, Shyam Murali. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. He asked, what things should you look for in programs when you're deciding to do away rotations at? And I kind of touched on that a little bit in my clinical rotations video. But again, I think the strongest thing that you can do in trying to prepare for the match and for ERAS is pick an away rotation where there's someone there who can write you a very strong letter of recommendation. Somebody with some notoriety in the field that you want to go into, or who's done research, or who's well known. I mean, a letter from somebody who has some kind of clout goes a long way. So hopefully you found that useful. Like I said, if you have any questions, post them down below. ERAS is just your application online. It generates a CV for you so the programs can look through. Start to think about that information we talked about. Start to plan that out. Get your personal statements written. Work on getting those letters of recommendation, and everything else will just kind of like flow. But as long as you're thinking about it ahead of time, you're already ahead of the game and you're doing the right thing. So good luck, guys. Like I said, post any questions down below, and we will talk to you again real soon. Bye now.